Philip Pitch, welcome to Beyond the Close.
Great to be here, Chris.
And how is Adelaide today, mate?
As you can tell by the attire, it's slightly on the cooler side, but nothing to complain about.
It's the turtleneck weather in Adelaide, which is a little bit different to Dubai. We are just chatting just off air, about your recent trip to Dubai, where it was up to 52 degrees, which is crazy. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's probably the worst time of year to head over. Like kind of July, September, October is just super hot. So that's their summer. That's why everybody leaves in summer and goes to Europe. So yeah, I kind of had to go during that period of time just due to kind of regulations and company setup. You've got a specific time to do things. But also, like we talked about, traveling with kids,
It's
not
another
very
ball
easy,
game, isn't it?
balancing meetings and weather and kids and travel and living out of a suitcase.
And
It's
tripping over the suitcase in the middle of the hotel room, trying to use the desk
that
while
does
they're
happen.
sleeping. They've got their nap, making sure that you have the dark room.
That's exactly it. It's all the fun and games of balance and travel and business, right?
Mate, there's a whole podcast on that. Well, let's start at the start. So, give us a bit of background on you. You are a high ticket closer, professional high ticket closer, and you've also just launched your own offer. Tell us a bit about your background. Where were you before closing? How did you get into it? And then we'll talk about the journey.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess my background started, I just went to university, kind of got dragged into that by my parents, just being European immigrants, you got to get a degree, you got to get a good job, you got to be respectable. So I kind of listened to all of that, jumped from degree to degree for a couple of years, and then I ended up getting into law. So I think I watched too much Suits. I was always thinking like I'm going to be the guy walking around closing the big deals, and when I got into it, I very quickly realized it was a lot more paper pushing and a lot of the stuff I didn't want to do. But I think I realized very quickly I was good at negotiating. That was the thing I always enjoyed doing. I was always really good at presenting, speaking, negotiating. So yeah, I think that kind of made me realize early on what my strengths were, even though it didn't align with sales yet. That kind of came a little bit later on. So after law, I started working in banking, mainly for Westpac, and just hated the whole corporate environment. Like I didn't really appreciate being told you've got a, 15-minute break to take here, and you've got this meeting at this time, and these people complaining about this and that. And I was just like, this is just not for me. So I started, searching online for, things you can do to make money outside of your job. And I ended up coming across a guy called Dan Locke many, many years ago.
The great Dan
So I
Locke.
was in his, yeah,
I
he's
wasn't
copped
aware
a
of
bit
that,
of a
mate.
bad
I
rap.
didn't realize, but yeah, he gets a bad rap, but he's got some great stuff.
Well, I can speak from him, like about him from my own personal experience. And, I was never involved in, the things he's kind of, criticized for today, but he did have that high ticket closer training. And I was in his season one. So he had like 30 or 40 students. And yeah, I went through the training. I did all the negotiations, the role plays, the daily practice, the mindset stuff. And yeah, I just started selling like a bit of a training on Facebook Marketplace, teaching people how to buy products in China and list them online and sell them. So it was technically like my own offer. It wasn't very high ticket. It was like $1,000. But at that stage, I managed to like close, I think in my first month, like 12 people, while I was still working for Westpac. So I'm like, cool, I'm starting to match my income. How do I do this consistently? But it wasn't very consistent. So it was one of those things, like it was a bit of a wave. It wasn't really something I could, sell long term. So then I started working for different coaches, consultants, selling their trainings, their programs, the body transformation stuff. I think I've sold everything. Once again, none of that was consistent enough to really make me feel comfortable to leave my job. But
So this
then I
this was
started
all on the
working with,
side. This was all on the side of Westpac.
yeah, there was honestly a couple of years where I'd work 9 to 5 at Westpac, and then I'd be taking sales calls from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. and usually from like 7 to 11 at night. So there were a couple of years where I think I worked like 15-hour days, like very, very often. And there wasn't much to show for it. Like
Wow.
everyone was going out and partying, and Saturday morning came and I was just wrecked. It's like not because I had a big night, but because I'd been, taking sales calls and trying to get this whole, thing to work. But I ended up coming across a couple of guys in the Gold Coast that started an e-commerce company. And that was at the time when Jordan Belfort did his tour in Australia. So it's almost weird. Like I had this feeling that I saw his tour and I was like, I have to be there. Like I don't know what it was. It was just something drawing me. And as soon as I saw the tour, I booked my tickets. I went to Melbourne. And really from there, I met a few people that started that company. I came into that company, and that was really where, it went from making some sporadic sales here and there to actually making an income that, far exceeded what I was doing in Westpac. So that's when I quit. And that was, I think, 6 years ago.
Wow. So,
And here we are today.
and no doubt the negotiation training as a lawyer, held you in good stead for closing. And Dan Locke does he gets a bad rap, but he has got some good stuff. And I think any training that you do that's specific to remote sales or high ticket is important, because it's not a type of sale that it's like normal selling. It's different. It's very different. There's a process you follow. There's skill sets. There's specific techniques. There's a mindset approach to it. And so I think going through any training to calibrate your existing communication skills to this space, it's essential. So it sounds like you did that really well. And man, it's cool that you did the side hustle for many years and you sort of paid your dues. It sounds like learning the ropes. Like, talk us through what types of offers before we go into sort of the e-com offer. What were some of the funniest things? What are some of the funniest stories, the funniest things you used to sell sort of at 10 p.m. Of a night after your job at Westpac?
Oh God, there was one. It was for like a female health coach. So she was teaching women how to start a business in holistic health. So it was a very emotional offer, man. It was like there were a lot of kind of like, with all due respect, pretty broke women wanting to get into this. And it was a very emotional kind of discussion. Like it was never about like, I'm going to build up this asset to make all this money. It was just like, crying about their situation and how passionate they are about health. And man, I'd literally finished that. I mean, I need a whiskey. Like it's like 11 o'clock and I'm all femaled out for today.
It's a bit
But
draining.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
good fun. It was
We
good fun though.
laugh,
'Cause like,
but it is,
yeah,
these are important conversations. But it is, as a salesperson, it's sort of, you get a little bit desensitized to it, like a police officer gets desensitized. As a former police officer, I used to get desensitized to death and all those sorts of things, which are normally, quite confronting for people. As a sales rep, you hear all the stories, you hear people's life, and you obviously have compassion for all of that, but it is quite funny sometimes when you think about some of the prospects you sell to and some of the different offers that you've been on.
it is. And I think really importantly, you do have to treat all people the same. I don't mean looking at people as a sale, but I mean like genuinely, wanting to hear their story, understand their situation. And obviously if there is a fit, the whole point of the sale is to deliver a solution for that person. So for those women, they were looking to build a business where they could do something that would help other women. A lot of them had, bad health themselves, they'd gone through bad relationships, and they wanted to channel that energy into something positive. So the whole purpose of that conversation is to then really understand whether they're capable of doing that and helping them have the right framework to then move forward and do something that's going to make them healthier, happier, and hopefully, financially better off as well. So yeah, every sale is a bit different, but I guess you got to follow those same principles of actually caring about what someone, wants and says.
And you also have to be passionate about and really believe in what you are selling as well to feel authentic. And I think that can be that can sometimes come and go depending on what you are selling. How did you get on these offers? What were sort of some of the commissions? Like what were you making when you were a bit of a sort of a side hustler?
Look, the first several, they weren't really the biggest offers. Like we're talking a few $1,000 offers, 10% commission, that kind of thing. But
Couple of
the
$100.
original ecom offer, yeah, the original ecom offer I was on it was just stupid. Like we were doing 10 to $30,000 packages, and a lot of the time the commission was like 25% plus. So
Wow.
depending where the leads were coming in from, that's why, you were able to go from kind of like 10K a month in your job to very often 10K weeks, which was, a bit of a shift. You're like, holy shit, I'm making what I'm making in my job in a week. Like, what do I do with all this money? So that doesn't come straight away. A lot of people are like, wow, how'd you get into this? And it's like, well, you didn't see the 2 years of me slugging away selling, holistic health to women in Tennessee, did you? So
That is hilarious, and that's so true. It's so true as well. It's so unrealistic to expect. I mean, it's that you can start a sport, start playing golf, and then all of a sudden be in the PGA.
well, you can't. It is a skill set like anything else. And we obviously mentioned doing Dan Locke many years ago. That was the first training I did. I'm always doing trainings. I did all of Jordan Belford's straight line persuasion. I've done NEPQ training. I've done so many courses, and it's not that I don't know things. Like I'm pretty open to understanding there are better ways. And sales evolves, people's mentality changes, people's attention span changes. So like in any sport, you don't get to the top level and just kind of fizzle off. If you do that, your results going to drop. So you just got to kind of be humble, I guess, and understand that you always got to keep learning if you want to maintain that level or get better.
And do you think, and this is a sort of a rhetorical question, but do you think the top athletes in the world, do we think they have coaches, and do you think they've had training, or they've trained under different mentors, and they've sought different ways to perfect their craft, or do they just know it all and they go out there and try to perform just with what they learnt as through life? It's pretty crazy when people expect to be successful and but fail to invest anything in training.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at all the top athletes, right? They're very good at what they do, but they're always training with new coaches, new systems, new methods. They're always doing new things because they want to get better. So, like anything in life, you get what you put into it. You can get really good at sales and cool, you might do well for a while, but if you're not training yourself, you're not reviewing your calls, you're not getting feedback, how are you going to get better?
Totally
You got to
true.
follow those numbers.
Totally true. It's the same. It's so the parallels there with sports and elite athletes with as with sales, and you've also got the same with leagues. You've got different companies that are in different leagues, and the holistic health types of offers, the one-man band sort of coaching offers. These are perfect offers for someone to go and for people to go and learn on. You get paid if you're prepared to sort of stay up until midnight. If you're prepared to get up at 3 a.m. to sell on a US offer, and then pay your dues for a couple of years and really put the reps in. That preparation is going to equal, or at least once you are presented the right opportunity, you'll be able to take that and perform.
Exactly. And the reason I love high ticket sales in general is because, it's a skill you can learn relatively quickly. Like you're not going to get to the top 1% in 3 months, right? But you can go from zero to pretty damn good in 3 months. And that pretty damn good can, if you're closing a $5,000 offer and you're doing two of those a week, let's say at 10%, that's $1,000 a week extra. That's 4,000 a month. That's 6 grand Australian. That's an income. So you can get to that level pretty quick, but you do have to be dedicated to learning the craft, getting that feedback, and obviously being humble and understanding you're going to be a little bit shit in the beginning, and learn from those mistakes. But as long as you continue doing that training and you keep progressing, you get good at that offer, well, then new opportunities open. It's not like you're starting out and someone calls you and goes, hey, I got this $50,000 offer. We're paying, 15% commissions. Can you jump in? You're only going to get that opportunity 2, 3 years in once you've been consistently good. So, it's like anything. You can be an athlete, you're good in your original team, League 2, League 3, whatever. 5 years later, if you're consistently really good, you're going to be in that top level.
You're going to go pro.
But it comes with the consistency.
Talk us through the e-com offer. Those are juicy numbers. Juicy numbers. Talk us through that experience and where did the leads come from? How were you closing? What was the sales process you went through? And what was the journey there?
Yeah, so it was a startup. So it was probably the first company really doing anything like that in the space. So I think at the time the leads were pretty cheap. Today, the whole dynamic is very, very different, as you're probably aware with, running ads and everything. But they generally just had ads running to a VSL. People would watch the presentation, book in a call. And then on the call, we would basically sit down with them, figure out, the ins and outs of why they want it, what it was going to do for them, and then present them, some potential ecom options that we could build for them based on their budget and goals. So yeah, really range from that kind of like around 10,000 mark. We had some packages above the 50. But yeah, we just kind of figure it out, send them an agreement, they wire the money over, you get paid your commission, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, drive home in the Lambo.
Yeah, no Lambos here at the moment, man.
Drive home in the Tarago at the moment for you with the twins. Maybe the Kia
Yeah,
Carnival.
yeah, we definitely got an SUV for the kids, and I still drive my little Mercedes, but it's good enough for now.
Nice, nice. So yeah, on the offer. How long were you on the offer, the ecom offer, and then what happened? So I mean, and this is something that people change, people move. It can be transient. So what happened there?
So I worked with this particular company in the Gold Coast for about a year and a half, 2 years. But yeah, they started facing some problems like consistency with leads, results, all of that started kind of not really being at a level where it should be. And it was strange because once again, that feeling I mentioned to you about needing to be in that, when Jordan Belfort came down, I had to be there. A guy reached out to me from Australia, and he happened to be a founder in a company in America that was doing a similar business model, but on Amazon. I was like, okay, I'll hear this guy out. And spoke to him. I was like, I'm not too sure about this, let it go. And he just kept following me up once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. I was like, all right, let's sit down. I'll meet the rest of the team, see how you guys are doing this. And when he actually presented what these guys were doing, I was like, holy shit, this is like pretty cool. Once again, it was very fresh. It was a much bigger market in the US. And I ended up transitioning into a different ecom business, mainly around Amazon. So the one in Australia was Shopify. Most people probably know Shopify. This is purely Amazon based. So once again, packages in this offer were kind of higher. They were like 25 to 50 plus US, with about a 15% commission. So yeah, that started doing really, really well again for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then I kind of stepped away from that business once a similar thing happened. So that's I guess one of the unique criticisms I have of the industry. There's a lot of opportunities we can earn really good money, but you got to kind of keep your finger on the pulse as well. Like you got to believe in what you're selling, like you said, and if it's incongruent with what you're offering someone, I don't personally feel comfortable. Someone investing a huge amount of money into something when you don't genuinely believe it's going to produce that same outcome it may have done a year ago.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. It's probably one of the hardest parts of high ticket. One of the best parts of high ticket is you get warm leads. You've got companies who are marketing and they're bringing leads in. You're not having to go to trade shows and sit at a stand and just talk to people as they walk by and write their name on a list and then follow them up the next week and then nurture them over 6 months to then get a sale. Like you're getting leads that are coming through from paid marketing campaigns that are coming into the CRM, qualifying, and then they close, and often it's a really short sales cycle. So that's one of the best parts of this industry, or potentially the best, or the reason why this type of selling is really amazing, and why I feel it's the superior career in sales. But it's also the risk. The risk is that the marketing and/or that front end, the marketing, how they're generating leads, that can fluctuate as well. And you are somewhat beholden to how much money they're investing in marketing, how good their team is, how good the agency they're using is. Do they have internal marketing? What are they doing with their database? So you are quite beholden to that as a sales rep. And so when things are good, they're really good. And if things go sideways, they can go sideways in a big way.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, look, the warm lead side is huge. Like you don't have to be knocking on doors. Like it can be 8 p.m. You're, you're in a t-shirt, you've got no pants on, no one knows, you're on Zoom, and you can do the sale. So that's pretty cool. That's the part that really excited me in the beginning, was like, I'm here in Adelaide, this person somewhere in America, I'm just on Zoom, and they're paying $5,000 over the phone to me without ever actually meeting me, without shaking my hand. We've just followed a process. They've learned about our company. They know the offer. They trust it. They like it. They've met me. Everything's aligned. Now they wire the money. So it's a huge benefit. Like, definitely for people as well that want to be a little bit more flexible with their, kind of lifestyle. They want to travel. I know you did a lot of sales out of Bali years ago. You know,
Yeah, it's
not
awesome.
many,
It's
not many
amazing.
career paths allow you to do that.
We just did an interview with Adrian, who you may or may not have met, but he was on the team that we worked on together. You may have heard of Adrian, but he's been to 50 countries, and he was traveling nonstop while he was working on the offer. And we were laughing because he's now got a rule where he hires people who are grounded in their space, and they're not traveling. But he was the ultimate traveler, and his performance was amazing when it was good. And then if he'd been traveling or sort of drained, it would dip. But it's an incredible opportunity, and also the probably equal to that is the fact that you can expand your reach. If you live in Adelaide, you want to work at a bank. How many banks are there? If you're a banking expert, and you want to, maybe progress your career to middle management, but there's no opportunities at Westpac, where do you go? Do you go to NAB? Do you go to CBA? And how many opportunities are in the town? Do you have to then move, or do you just stay in that career? But where in high ticket, you can expand globally to opportunities, which is mind-boggling, really.
And that's it. Once you become good in the space, you become that kind of elite athlete, you get opportunities globally. You have people reaching out to you saying like, hey, I saw you do X, Y, Z, are you open to looking at this? And instead of you then searching for those offers, the offers end up coming to you. So
it's already happening with my
in
students.
Australia, Singapore.
A lot of my students now, and there's a number of my students who are building their network, and they found that they've gotten onto an offer, and because they've been expanding their network, building connections, they're starting to get opportunities come to them. Some are good, some aren't as good. They're sort of passing some off, but you start to create a reputation in the industry, which is beneficial for future opportunities. How did you go about selling or finding offers at that time? Where were you looking? What were you doing? What were you actively doing to sort of generate leads or build a pipeline of offers?
I guess it came from, like you said, a lot of the networking. So, you end up, meeting people in the industry. You end up, kind of befriending them on LinkedIn, Instagram, that kind of thing, and just kind of staying in those circles. So you end up knowing other really good closers, what offers they're on. You get close with them. They relay information to you saying, hey, this company's doing well. They might be hiring in a few months. So it just ends up being more kind of off market, if you know what I'm saying.
Honestly, that's what we say. It's I'd say 80%, 85% of sales roles. I mean, there are stats, but 85% of sales roles are filled off platform, through network, through connections. Most hiring managers are not looking to hire on Seek, and they're not looking to post a Seek ad and then sift through 1,000 different crappy applications with people who haven't even read the ad. It's just it's a hassle. It's a frustration. And so they're looking to hire from their network, and almost always that happens. And so even for us as a recruiting business, I'd say 90% of our placements are placed not from the ad we post. We always post an ad because we just like to build our community or build our talent pool, and we can find good people in there. But often we're finding someone we've got a job on, we've posted the ad, we've got 1,000 applications, 2 of them were good, but none of them were good for this role. And so we keep them warm, and then a month later we get another role, and boom, we've made a match. But if we hadn't have posted the ad for the past client, which none of those candidates were suitable for that actual role, we've been able to make a match because we've nurtured that talent pool. It's important, but most employers are not posting ads. Most employers are not recruiting agencies, and they're hiring through network, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through being in contact. Is there anything you would sort of suggest to someone who's expanding their network? Let's say even expanding to the US. Is it on LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it commenting? What were you doing that you feel sort of at least broaden your reputation? Going to events.
Well, I think once you get into one offer, right, it's kind of doing well on that offer and then leveraging the people that, maybe run it, maybe manage the sales teams, and just staying in those circles. Also, if you sign up to like a high ticket training program, very often you're going to be exposed to a lot of new people. If you do something like, Jeremy Miner's trainings, they're a huge community. If you do well through that training, you're then going to be exposed to 20, 30, 40 different offers they sell on. If somebody trains with you, they do very, very well. Well, I mean, you might potentially have a way of them getting into an offer sooner than someone who just cold outreach to you. So I think as well, providing value, like actually being, the person you practice, you preach, showing people you're good at it instead of just hitting random people up saying like, hey, I'm looking for a role. Like, can you help me? That doesn't very often help.
It's so hilarious that you say that, because that's something that we get every day. And more of our students in our launch program are getting hired. And to be honest, because I'm training them so thoroughly on every aspect of the sales, not just being on a sales call, but it's how to manage a pipeline, how to run different CRMs. They're coming qualified. They're coming with, little certificates on different aspects that you need, skills and strategies in high ticket. And as a previous sales leader, sales manager of a high ticket team, if I was hiring these people that came with all these credentials and they were plug and play, batteries included, it would just be a dream, an absolute freaking dream. And because I was transforming as a sales manager, I was transforming setters, I was transforming construction workers into appointment setters, I was transforming, corporate people into closers, like Adrian. I was, former business owner and a network marketer, into a closer, and so now business owners get the choice. And if you are just sort of on sending me an email saying, "Hey, give me a job," I'm like, why would I do that? I've got an infinite number now of students.
Of those backed up somewhere.
Yeah, I do. I don't even. I mean, listen. If you want to send me an email, and you're a great candidate, then please do. But if you're really not invested in training, if you don't have a compelling, if your email sucks as well, like that's the thing. We train our guys on how to outreach in a way that's going to get you attention. If you're just sending an email that's crap, not well written, it clearly shows that you haven't, you don't have the skill, then why would I look at it?
Definitely. And I guess one thing, like circling back to, applying for roles that are actually posted, so many thousands of people apply for those roles, and everyone does the same thing. They write a cover letter on Seek and they send their resume. And one thing I learned very early was that just doesn't work. They don't know who you are. They don't see a photo. They're just skimming through paperwork. So I actually taught a few of my friends this, and everyone who does this ends up getting an interview. So instead of sending your resume, send your cover letter on Seek, but create a video. And in that video, just explain in 45 seconds who you are, what you do, your background, and how you can help that company. And just embed that into the
cover letter
text, and send that instead of sending your resume. If they open the video and watch it and get back to you, well, they're going to want to see your resume. If 1,500 people have sent a cover letter and a resume and 2 people sent a video, pretty sure the 2 people that sent a video are going to get spoken to.
The video is going to get watched. They
already have you in their mind of what you look like, who you are, what you can do. They have a good feeling about you. That's why they've watched the video and they're going to reach out. So you're just going to be a bit different and obviously lead with more value, do things differently, and you might get a different result.
Love it. So we met maybe, was it 12 months ago? It's coming up to 12 months because it was around Christmas.
This time of year.
It was around Christmas, man, and you burnt me. I remember we were chatting about the role. I was looking for a closer at the time. I was seeking some support on the team. Had a good team, and you were also looking for opportunities, and we chatted But then, mate, you burnt me for a little while. You actually didn't believe what I was telling you. You couldn't believe that it was possible to do the things that we were talking about.
No, I didn't because through my own experience, I mean, the kind of metrics and numbers you were talking about, the consistency, I just hadn't experienced it. So, kind of looking back at that 12 months, I'd gone through a bit of a pretty rough patch, to be honest with you. I had a whole bunch of stuff kind of end up in the US, just finished up not the way I wanted. With this e-commerce company, I kind of stepped aside. Two kids were born a few months earlier, whole bunch of random things all falling from the sky at the same time. So it's a bit of a stressful time. But I definitely think we crossed paths at the right time for the right
For a
reason. So
reason.
I ended up sitting down with you, seeing the validity of what you were saying. It was exactly what you said. You're a very honest and kind of transparent guy, and jumped on the team, and I think we did some good things.
We did some good numbers, man. We did some good. We got there eventually because there was yeah, at the time, and look, I've had a really good. I had a good track record of having an A team, an A playing team, and at the time I'd had a number of A players just move on, and there were things that happened, and Adrian, who we just did a podcast with, he went off to lead another team, and things happen where you progress, and so we're in a bit of a transition. I was looking for talent, and I could definitely see that you were you tick those boxes, but you were also, I think you needed to make 20K a month pretty quickly, I think, from the first month. So you had some big numbers, and I think you wanted to make sure that was legit. And at the time, I was probably just too busy, stressed. We just had a baby similar times as well, and my influence skills as an interviewer probably weren't there. And then I didn't close you, mate. I didn't close you on the opportunity because you thought about it for maybe a month or two, and then we did reconnect, and then jumped on, and then you were part-time, but full effort, I would say.
Yeah, I don't like doing things half-assed. Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. If I'm not, I'm not going to waste my time. I know how this stuff works. Like, you're taking XYZ calls per day. You've got to be fully focused. You've got to prepare yourself in the morning. We've talked about this before, having a good morning routine, cold shower, a bit of mindset work, a very strong coffee, all these things are essential. And then hit the day. If you're doing 2 calls, 5 calls, 8 calls, 10 calls, whatever it is, like hit every single one of them. Like it's the only meeting you got, like put everything you got into it. And yeah, I didn't have capacity to do 10, 15 a day. But starting off part-time, that's really what I needed at the time. And you obviously gave me that opportunity, which I'm, very grateful for.
And at the time, we weren't really hiring part-timers, but sometimes when you know that you've got someone who's a professional, who's a bit of a proven quantity, you just make a space. And, if I know as a leader I'm going to give you less volume, but that volume of calls is going to be closed at a certain percentage, then you're just happy to give that volume away. And at the time, I think, I don't know if you're comfortable, but the space that you were selling on is quite an interesting space on the flip side of what you were selling as well, which I've used in a presentation. Are you cool if I sort of just give the industry?
Yeah, go for it.
So you're selling OnlyFans management as a more of a business opportunity for people to come and learn and have a business in a box to be an OnlyFans manager. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that was one of the projects I was involved in. So yeah, it was basically showing people how to set up like the whole business from start to finish. Nothing involved with, like X-rated cameras or anything. It was more about like how to actually build the infrastructure of the business, how to promote the business, how to actually get people to subscribe, how to manage the team, how to manage the models, that kind of thing. So it was like a done for you modeling agency offer. So
Got
yeah.
it. So yeah, and again, like being at the forefront of a new trend like e-com, Amazon, that was going well at the time. From what I understand, I think there was a lot of demand for it.
Yeah, look, the business is still going really, really well. I'm very good friends with, both the founders. We're still in very close contact, but yeah, long term, I don't think it's really something that, aligns with what I want to do. And especially when you've got a young daughter now, you kind of think twice about things like that. But,
Mm.
I didn't feel, morally wrong. It wasn't, like you were bringing in girls into this industry. It
Exploiting
was just
people.
showing people how to actually, build the infrastructure of the business, which, is in very high demand, like you said.
Absolutely. And, I think, it's like you say, it's a business opportunity. And that can be the long and short of it. But, and then, and then obviously on the offer that we were selling, I was super impressed, and it makes sense now because I didn't know the extent of your side hustle, the grind that you went on, the journey that you went on to get to that place. But obviously preparing and getting onto a new offer, it was not your first rodeo. You had a process. You were dialing in. You were listening to calls. You were looking at through the training. You were you were asking a lot of questions. You were just preparing yourself as best you could, like a professional would before they start. Do you have, how would you describe the routine of learning a new offer, learning a new product to sell for a new sales rep or even a sales rep who's changing?
Um, well, look, I'll be honest. It's definitely a little bit draining if you've done it, several times already. New offer, new company, new process, new leads, new CRM. You just got to immerse yourself in it. Like I would be going for hour and a half, 2 hour walks every afternoon. What am I doing? I'm listening to sales calls. I've got my cell phone, I've got my headphones in, I'm listening to two or three calls, stopping, taking notes, go back home, compare that to the script, compare that to other calls. Cool. How would I handle that? You know, I don't know something. Cool. Write it down. Message Chris. Chris, what the hell does this mean? So just the more you get involved in it, the better you get. It's not just learning a script and learning something verbatim. It's actually understanding, the ins and outs of the business, why people want it, what their objections are, what, every possible avenue is in that business. So when you actually get into the conversation, you actually get it. You're not having to kind of sit there like a stunned mullet, like, oh, I'm not sure. Like you got to kind of know what you're talking about. So, the harder you dive in the beginning, the more you kind of learn, the more you prepare yourself, the better the results will be from the beginning.
And what would you say your daily routine is? A morning routine as a sales rep, sort of closing on an offer. How do you sort of go about your day? How do you structure your calendar? Whether it's day, week, do you have any rituals around that?
Yeah, I'm still pretty strong on setting my weekly calendar. So I do that on Sundays, but some things are kind of up in the air now with kids. We kind of attempt to put this block in the afternoon, but if, the nap's off or something, then that can change. Especially now as well, I'm getting up a lot earlier. Like a lot of the work I'm doing is US based again with my new company. So I'm trying to generally get up about 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, cold shower, do some breathing, have a coffee. By 5 o'clock latest, kind of, at the computer hitting it. So I try to maintain that, have that first 30, 45 minutes of the day, just, phones on plane mode, no emails, no messages, no, anxiety going off from all your notifications. Just kind of focus on yourself, get yourself in a good state, just feel good. And then we turn the phone on.
Get the feeling. Yeah, it's about immersing yourself and just eliciting that feeling. I think is so important, and being deliberate about it, cultivating a state. Uh,
That's
and the
it.
best the
Yeah, I'm very
best
big
do
on the
are really
state.
good at
Like,
that.
state control is definitely something I think is super important, and a lot of like sales reps overlook it. They just think it's, just learning how to sell, saying the right thing. It's like if you're not in the right state, it doesn't matter what you say. Like they can sense that. So it doesn't matter if you closed 10 deals last week or zero deals for the last month. Like if you're new to the space, that's going to really affect how you feel. And I used to go through that roller coaster. Like I used to ride the highs, like, you close 5 deals, you made crazy money, like, let's go blow off steam, let's have a party. And then you've had a week where you haven't closed a deal and it's like you're in the pits.
It's
That shouldn't
demoralizing.
matter. You got to be in the middle.
It's demoralizing. It is interesting. I say you have to be skeptical of the good times, and also not over celebrate. You can celebrate. I think it's okay to celebrate. I think it's healthy to celebrate, and it's also healthy to feel bad when you lose a sale, when you miss something. It's super healthy and normal. But it's just these extremes where if you're extreme over celebrating when you get a sale, then what happens when you lose one? And maintaining the even keel is something that's, I think, comes with time, maturity, but it also doesn't come unless you're working on it.
Yeah, and I was definitely a lot worse at it years ago than I am now. Like today, you just know it's part of the game. Like not every day is the same. Not every day is going to be great. You're going to have great days, bad days, but the only thing you can control is like how you show up. So that's why state control for me in the morning is so important because, I'm very, very kind of hot-blooded person. Like I'm full of energy in, I can be down, I just got to balance myself. And if I can control me, then whatever happens, happens. I've done the best I can to prepare. If it's good, it's bad, whatever it is, same old Phil is going to show up.
There's a quote that's something, it says it's something around the lines of, when I was young, I wanted to change the world, and now I'm older, I'm still working out how to change myself. And it's the
That's pretty
it's the
accurate.
ultimate self mastery, because self mastery is important in sales, and it's pronounced in sales because you get feedback so quickly. Not many other professionals at HR, accounting, you very rarely get the type of feedback that you get in sales if you're showing up hungover, poor state, emotionally drained, wrecked. If you're wrecked and you're building a spreadsheet as an accountant, you can still probably build the spreadsheet. The result's probably going to be the same. But if you're wrecked as a salesperson, you get to the end of the day, and you had 5 sales calls and none of them closed. That's the feedback that you get. You get instant feedback. And then if you are on game, you may have closed 2 of those calls, or maybe 3. And that's the kicker. And I think it's really, it's scary to think how many deals we've lost, how much money we haven't made because of how, maybe we were showing up in an unresourceful state.
Yeah, definitely. And even looking back at it, years ago, some of the offers I used to sell, I'd have this bit of like a running joke that I'd have to show up every Saturday morning, pretty hungover to take my sales calls because I had a ridiculous record on Saturday mornings. Like I'd rock up, and if I had a big night on a Friday, my sales calls on Saturday were just killing it. But that was just, oh, it was ridiculous. Like I'd close like at least 50% of the calls I'd have on a Saturday, but that was just luck. That wasn't the nature of reality. That was just, a spell of time. And then the older you get, you realize, if you have a big night on a Saturday, you're feeling like shit on a Tuesday. And you just can't do that. Once you hit 30, you're not 21 anymore. So
No, no, no. The bounce back time's it's a lot longer. For me, 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks to feel human again after a big night. So that's why
2 weeks.
I definitely think, and I think this is the same for. I think if you have a big night, like I'm talking bender territory, it can take 2 weeks. I think to be back to equilibrium. Perfect. I mean, you're still good. You can be by Wednesday, you're okay, but then full 100% battery full. I think 2 weeks, but. Let's talk about parenthood and managing this with business, and like you say before, you're up at 4:30, state management, biohacking, big thing in sales. But when you're a parent, especially a new parent, and man, I cannot understand how you're doing this as with twins. When you've got wake ups, how do you manage that with your wife? Are you juggling things? Do you sleep in a different room? Are you up with every wake up? How does that work in your household?
Yeah, I used to sleep in a different room if I had like really early kind of important meetings, but the kids are a lot better now. They're a lot more streamlined. So, they're almost 18 months now. So they're sleeping most of the night. But in the first 3, 4 months, it was hell. Like it was really bad. It was really bad. Like obviously you got to feed them every hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever it was. So we're just taking turns. Today it's a lot easier, but you got to teach him that as well. It's like there's 2 of them. He wants to eat, she doesn't want to eat. She wants to eat, he doesn't want to eat. Bad luck, you're both eating. You're both going to sleep at the same time. You're both going outside at the same time. You're both pooping at the same time. You're both bathing at the same time. Like you need to put that routine in, otherwise you can't manage your own routine. So yeah, I think I'm having like a really solid routine for them. Like they nap around 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the morning to 1. deviates 15, 20 minutes outside of that. But every day now, they're napping for 2 hours. You know, they're up for 4 hours after that. Bed is 7:30, 8 o'clock. Pray to God, you know, they don't wake up till 5:36. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works. But yeah, I definitely couldn't do it without you know, my wife. Like she's been obviously the main one with the kids as much as possible. You know, you try to juggle as much as you can, but there's no chance we could do it without the women.
No, it's a team effort, and they're definitely the captain. If there's the family's a team, I think the woman is often the captain when it comes to that sort of stuff. And yeah, full respect to the women out there who have kids and also twins. It's crazy. We had last night, Indy. She slept through, so I was up at 4:30 this morning, and because she'll be 12 months next month, sort of late next month, late October. So this is September now. So she's a month away from being one, and we had a full night's sleep last night, which is probably the third time that's happened. It happened once when we were away over in Europe just a few weeks ago. And last night, and so woke up, didn't know myself. I'm like 4:30. So we've been waking up at maybe 3, 2:30, and she just needs a feed and nappy change, and then she's back down, and it might be half an hour, and then but sometimes she might be 2. Sometimes there might be some funny business go on, and then I find it hard to get back to sleep, and then you're a bit rattled. But I was chatting to someone about this, about how when you single or you don't have kids and you're just where everyone's focused and dialed in on tracking sleep, Whoop, Aura Rings, just fully dialed in to really elicit the full state or that resourceful state. But I've just found, I was so surprised, but you can force yourself to push through if you haven't had sleep, if you've had a rough night with kids. There's a miracle there. Somehow you can still push through. I think it's different to if you had a big night on the booze, though.
Oh, it's very different. Hey, I still recall the first month of when they were born, and I was like, man, I'm so tired. Like, how does anyone do this? Just like felt like you had like razor blades in your eyes. You're just like drinking coffee after 2 hours of sleep, and then after a week, you kind of get used to it. It's like I'm used to sleeping, 7, 8 hours a night. I'm sleeping 3, 4 hours a night, but somehow I'm functioning. So it's not sustainable long term, but you can go through those periods of time where you get very little sleep. But you do have to look after yourself. You can't be doing, stupid stuff. You can't be partying. You got to really kind of like guard yourself, just eat well, try to not overstress your body with too much exercise, and just know that you're not sleeping much for this period of time. You can still balance the other stuff. It's not fun, but you got to do it sometimes.
I think there's a big thing in mindset here is with acceptance and being accepting of just things as they are at the moment. And for me, that was like not training a lot and not going to the gym a lot and sort of totally ruining my routine, not ruining, but just totally changing the routine there and just being okay with that. I had to be okay with that because I think you can also go the other way where it really impacts you and affects you if you're out of routine. And so I sort of, I think going with the flow is a bit of a learnt skill as well, and you need to do that as a parent. So there's a lot of lessons there, and I don't think anyone's really mastered it. I think they change. That's the thing is as with kids as well. I was saying the other day, I'm like, man, we know how to travel now with, we've got this dial. 30-hour trip there, 30-hour trip back. It was challenging. We're solving problems, but by the end of it, I'm like, man, I got this thing. Like, I know how to travel with a 10-month-old, 11-month-old. I'm like, well, next time we travel, she might be 2, and that's a totally different ballgame. They just keep changing.
Yeah,
you never master it.
Exactly. We started small, so we did Melbourne first, then we did Sydney, then we went to Cairns for a while. That was all under one, and then we did Bali earlier this year. That went all right. That was only 6.5-hour flight. They were like, all right, cool. Here comes Dubai. Here's the 14 hours.
The big flight.
And that was a lot more challenging, but yeah, you kind of get used to the process. It's just, emergency nappy changes on the plane and
oh, dude,
like that is never fun.
My God, man. So we got sick. We went to Fiji. So we left in middle of July, August, September. What are we now? Whatever. So it was a month ago, a bit over a month ago. We left. Um, August, middle of August, we left. But we had a little trip to Fiji for 5 days before. It was for an event. We spoke, but everyone got sick. We all got sick. So Fiji got the Fiji belly, diarrhea, the works, and the baby got sick and she was vomiting and everything. But then we had the flight directly. So we were flying back to Brisbane. We had a night in the Brisbane airport hotel. We were due to fly to Paris after that. We couldn't fly because I was vomiting into the checkout sort of part of Brisbane airport where you check into the flight. I was vomiting there at 11 p.m. We had a 2 a.m. flight, so we had to go back to the airport hotel. So we spent another night or 24 hours in the hotel before we flew. But Indy, because she had the top and the bottom, the diarrhea and the vomiting, I reckon I changed maybe 25 nappies on the flight, maybe more. It was like I'd go, and in those little aeroplane toilets, and you've got no wiggle room. And then she went through a phase where she hated being on the bench, and so she was crying. And you'd sit back down, and then you're like, hang on, is that? It was crazy. So the nappy changes.
Yeah,
I'm well
you
versed.
can never expect what it's going to be like. You have this idea in your head that the kid's going to be asleep, you're flying, having a beer, and in reality, it's very, very different. Especially overseas. Like we had our stroller, they lost it. So we landed in Doha. I'm like, where's our stroller? They're like, oh, it's gone all the way to this next country. I'm like, well, that wasn't the arrangement. We have 7 hours here at the airport. What are we going to do? We can't hold them both for 7 hours. So yeah, you just got to kind of embrace the unexpected. Like you said, you're never going to be perfect at it, but you're just going to kind of, go with the flow a little bit.
Dude, I commend you for the two. It's just I'm trying to imagine what it must be like, but I just can't get my head around it. But man, well done for that. What's on the horizon for you at the moment? What are you working on at the moment?
Well, definitely no more kids for now. I'll tell you that. I'm happy with the two.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds like a plan. Nothing makes you play more safer than having a baby and realizing what you go through, and I think
that's it. Yeah, I've definitely realized my limitations as a father. Two's enough for now, but yeah, the main thing I'm working on at the moment is my new company called Predictable Mining. So that's it's like we talked about, obviously, creating your own offer, selling your own offer. I kind of knew my strengths were always, the sales, negotiating, networking. I was never very good with the analytics, the numbers, the engineering side of businesses. So I partnered with a guy who's very, very good at what I'm not good at, and we launched this company. So yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about. It's crypto related. What we're basically doing is we're helping people to mine a cryptocurrency, which I have a lot of faith and belief in long term, and accumulate that over time. So instead of just buying a coin or going to Binance and buying some Bitcoin or whatever, it's actually investing in the nuts and bolts of the infrastructure. So being involved in the actual creation of the coin and accumulating it over time.
Mate, that's awesome. That's amazing. Well, how is it delivered? Is it a coaching program? Is it done with you? How does it work on the back end?
It's fully done for you. So if somebody wants to invest, let's say, $25,000, $50,000 into the mining operation, what we generally then do is we'll take those funds, we'll purchase the miners. We have 2 facilities. So one in North Carolina and one in Texas. And then we have about 30 staff on the ground that will then set up the miners, track everything, make sure it's all working, inspect them, do any maintenance work, and then help us distribute, obviously what the miner is producing each month back to the owner.
Awesome, mate. It sounds amazing. And have you launched? Where are you up to with ads? Are you launching ads? What's the funnel looking like at the moment? How are things going from at inception?
So VSL funnel, everything's done. Ads are launching next week. But yeah, we've been doing the mining for a while. We just haven't openly offered it to people. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of my own capital tied up in the mining. Obviously, I wanted to make sure it works, really, really well, kind of test out the bugs and issues with it. But it's been performing great. So yeah, we're ready to kind of go full steam ahead as of next week.
Cool, mate. Well, this at the time of filming, from what I understand of the crypto market, it's going into quite a bullish period.
Yeah, timing wise, it's very good. It's always difficult to launch something in a bit of a bear market. People aren't just skeptical, but the fear and greed index is usually on the extreme fear side. But yeah, things are looking really bullish. So I think a lot of people are going to be looking to get into the crypto space. They might not understand it. So that's really what we're going to be offering. It's not to people that know crypto back to front, but for people that might have a lot of capital and not understand how crypto works. Well, instead of buying a coin, why don't you actually invest in, validating transactions like being a bank, making sure that money from this account goes to this account. Once that's done, you actually get paid for doing that. So it's a bit of a different mindset. Yeah,
That's cool, man.
being
That's
more
cool.
involved in the actual creation, infrastructure, security, scalability of the project as opposed to just buying something and holding it.
And you'll be building a sales team as well. I'm sure once the ads start popping off, so that you'll be a future employer building your own sales team of setters and closers.
Correct. Yeah. So we might have to have a discussion about that, in the coming days or weeks, Chris, 100%. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to have capacity to handle all the meetings myself. So yeah, definitely in the beginning, I'm going to take a fair few myself, just really feel it out, understand, the process. But once that's streamlined, then yeah, we're looking to probably bring in 2 or 3 people before the end of the year.
Beautiful. Well, anyone listening, there's a good opportunity on the horizon with Phil. Phil, it's been awesome to hang out. We've gone, mate, through a bit of a history lesson on the high ticket industry. I think you've motivated a lot of people with what's possible. Also, given them the realities of what is required to be successful, and I think people will learn a lot from this podcast, mate. So I appreciate your time.
Awesome, Chris. It was a pleasure being on, man. I'll definitely be talking to you very soon about bringing on some sales reps. Okay.
Love it, mate. I'm your guy.
That's it. All right, mate.
Thanks, bud.
Pleasure.